Hey Dan, is this the same group?
It is similar, but a few dropped off and a few additions for the ethics credit.
Right.
I do apologize for the multiple choice question on the last one. Looked like it required a response. Because I started this meeting, I'm not able to adjust it for this one. So we'll have that same issue on the multiple choice question on the eval.
All right. Well, Nick, you have been very bad about commercialism, apparently, according to these polls, because we had to choose an option of you violating the ASHRAE commercialism policy to submit. So uh, if they come back to you and say something about that, know that that is not accurate.
Well, we won't let that go up the chain.
Well, no, think people could assume that if I talk about Mr. Carrier and Mr. Train, that's commercialism. However, when it's done in a historical manner, it's allowed by the ASHRAE commercialism policy.
I would agree with that, yes.
So okay.
But we did have a poll issue where we didn't have a chance to submit the evaluation poll without selecting some version of commercialism violation. So you may see a variety of violation options, but
Okay.
I think you're right. I don't think that there was anything that we need to be concerned about.
Thank you.
Actually, it is letting me adjust for this one now, so it will be corrected for this evaluation.
Okay, and I won't say those words here.
Okay, deal.
We can also have it on the first slide.
Yes, accurate. That is what I recall. We have had a couple of issues with it in the past, actual issues, not technical Zoom DL evaluation issues. So we've definitely had to read through it as a chapter a couple of times, but I do recall first slide is okay.
Yep.
And there are a few other caveats, but
First slide and historical, I think, are the big ones.
Dan, how many people signed up for this one?
Just a second as I adjust this.
Oh, sorry. You're doing all the real work behind the scenes.
We are saved. We had 33 registrants. We currently have 23.
21.
We're up to 23 here as a couple more just jumped on.
Cool.
How many did we end up for the previous?
There were 36 in the room.
Great.
Did schedule it for a 1:15 start, so there might be a couple jumping on yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, we'll give it a couple more minutes. Do a briefer intro this time. I think most people are return attendees, so we'll go from there in a couple.
Now, Dan, when we get to the breakouts, you're going to instruct them as to how to do things, correct?
Correct. Yep. We'll have,
Perfect.
It looks like we will have, I'm going to say 5 breakout rooms when this is all said and done here. And we'll just enter the chat to instruct to come back to the main room.
Okay.
All right, it looks like we're getting close to the number of people who registered, but we'll give it a couple more minutes before getting started. All right, it looks like we've got the bulk of our group here, and as Mick has finished updating his slides, we'll do a quick introduction and get underway. We have Mick Schwedler here to lead a discussion on ethics. Hopefully this will be useful for your required PDHs as a PE in Iowa. I wanted to make sure that you stay on the line after Mick has left to fill out a DL evaluation form. We're using a poll that only allows for numerical data entry, so if you have any additional written comments, please send those in a private chat or email to Dan Blake. In the last session, we had a little bit of difficulty with an ASHRAE commercialism policy question, but I think we sorted that out in this one, so hopefully that will go more smoothly. Nick has been involved in the development and support of HVAC systems for trains since 1982. As an applications engineer, his areas of expertise include system optimization, in which he holds patents, as well as chilled water and water source heat pump system design. His primary activities include assisting designers in proper application of train products and systems in buildings, and writing system application manuals and newsletters. Mick serves as president-elect on the ASHRAE Board of Directors and is also an ASHRAE Fellow. He is the recipient of ASHRAE's Exceptional Service, Distinguished Service, and Standards Achievement Awards. He was the chair of the SSPC 90.1 2010, as well as chair of the Advanced Energy Design Guide Steering Committee. Mick has served on several USGBC technical and education groups, chaired the lead technical committee, and served on the lead steering committee. He's also authored portions of the ASHRAE Green Guide and served on technical groups for the New Buildings Institute. With that, I'm going to hand it over to you, Mick, to teach us about ethics.
Thanks very much, Adam. I appreciate it. Just from a commercialism standpoint, in the commercialism policy, you are allowed to give credit to those who helped develop the presentation. This presentation was not developed by me, but made available from TC 1.7. It's business management and general legal education. Mike, and Warren are listed there. Their affiliations are allowed. So this is not a violation of the commercialism policy. So hopefully that takes care of things. Again, this is brought to you by this Distinguished Lecturer Program. When you get done, please fill out the form to let us know how we did. to let us know what we can do better and give us the real scores. The DL program and the Chapter Technology Transfer Committee uses the forums to determine whether or not the speakers are bringing value to you, the chapter members. This is a benefit available to you as a chapter member. We talked about volunteers. Please consider volunteering. You get more out than you put in. Sometimes it doesn't feel like that when you're going through it. Adam, as president, knows he's working a lot, but the networking you get, the skills you get, really bring back value to you both personally and professionally. Like the other presentation, this is available for AIA, continuing education provider, and also GBCI. And again, those are done through the ASHRAE DL program. So the way the agenda is going to work is we're going to try something. We're going to boldly go where no people have gone before. Dan is going to give us some instructions in a little while, but we're basically going to do 4 different ethics cases. We're going to describe what has happened in the ethics case, and then you're going to go to breakout rooms. And Dan will instruct us how to do that. You're going to discuss what do you think should be done. During that time, you're going to be asked to identify a spokesperson. And when we come back, we're going to ask probably one group each time, or maybe 2 groups each time, to tell us what they think should be done in a specific case. And we'll do this for each of the 4 different cases. The cases actually went to boards of ethics in a particular different jurisdictions. And after we have a short discussion, we'll share what the Board of Ethics actually came back with. So as I said, we're going to go through 4 different cases. These are those cases. And let's start out with don't burn the fire code. So there's some, it probably never happens in a job you're working on, but there's some problems with a budget. So let's go through what this engineer was asked to do. So the case starts out with is there's working with a university administrator. They developed a budget for a warehouse, and they didn't talk to the engineering department at all. Probably never happens in your case, but it happened in this case. The building's over budget, and they're looking for ways to reduce it. The electrical engineer in the engineering department at the university is being pressured to remove the exit lights. It's a warehouse. There's nobody in there anyhow, and therefore those costs shouldn't be in a particular case. The engineer refuses, and the administrator calls, in this person, it's a him, a disruptive influence in the organization. So the question is, what are your ethical obligations under these circumstances, and what can you do about it? So again, it's over budget. The administrator is pressuring you to cut and eliminate the exit lights. You've refused so far. You're a disruptive influence. What should you do in this case? Dan, can you please let us know what should we do to get to the breakout rooms? And we'd like for this one to people come back out of those breakout rooms in about 5 minutes. So Dan, what's the procedure here?
I'm going to automatically send everybody to breakout rooms. There should be 5 rooms, so 5 to 6 participants per room. And then I will send a note at 1:30 here, 5 minutes out, to have everyone leave the breakout rooms to come back to the main meeting. So we'll see if this works.
Have good discussions.
And you do have to join the room, I believe.
You're muted if you're trying to talk there.
All right, there's a few still in the rooms, but coming back in here, one left. And if not, the room will close in just about 40 seconds here. Looks like everyone's back, Mick.
Nick, you're on mute. Dan, are you able to unmute him?
I got it back.
There we go.
Sorry about that.
Go.
My mute had disappeared. I'm back. So hopefully people had discussions. This one's pretty cut and dried. Would a spokesperson from perhaps breakout room number 1 be willing to share what was discussed in breakout room number 1? Please unmute your line and share with us.
Yeah, this is Danielle, room 1. We basically discussed that the engineer should hold their ground, and that an option for what to do is you could try to get an exemption from the state fire marshal and get it in writing, but other than that, you should stick to the code.
Okay. And then this one is pretty cut and dried. So let's go and talk about that. So the Board of Ethics considered it's cut and dried because it's health, safety, and welfare of the public. That's the driving factor. That's the first thing we always look at from a professional engineering standpoint. If you get overruled, you don't have full power a lot of times, but if you do get overruled, it's your responsibility to inform higher authorities. So it doesn't stop just by saying no and walking away. And you should only provide the documents that are in conformity with the applicable standards and codes, and not aid or abet in the unlawful process of engineering by somebody else. So that we always start with the first one: health, safety, and welfare of the public, but then we have to make sure we uphold the other portions of ethics and not let other people do engineering when they are not qualified to be engineers. So you still have to act for your employer, and you have to be a faithful agent. Okay. So this next one might not be quite as simple, so it'll take a little bit more time. And here's the situation in this case. You're working, you work for a consulting engineer firm, and you're at a construction job site. So you're out there on a particular day, and you notice that on another site, an adjacent site to your job site, there's some potential safety issues. And people always ask, what are the safety issues? And I'll say, this is all the information you get. So there's some safety issues with a particular subcontractor. It's on an adjacent property. That property is owned by somebody else. So it's not the owner that you have been contracted for. And neither you nor the owner of your current project have a relationship with the owner of the other project. What are your ethical obligations under these circumstances? So again, you're on a job site, you're contracted to be on the job site, you notice something going on another job site, you don't know the owner, you don't have a relationship with them, nor does your owner have a relationship with the other owner. What should you do? So Dan, send us to some breakout rooms, please. And remember to define your spokesperson, and I'll come back and we'll ask for 1 or 2 when we get back, and let's do this. Let's take this one about 6 minutes, Dan.
Sounds good. And it'll be 4 rooms this time, 6 per room. Here we go.
Okay. So Dan, if you can let me know when folks are back.
Yep, just a couple left, and it looks like everyone is back in.
Okay, fantastic. So this one was a little bit more involved. So let's have a spokesperson from group 2 share what they thought.
We talked about that you probably have the ethical obligation to at least address it to the site superintendent or whoever's in charge as the contractor on that site, to let them know that you saw something that you felt wasn't up to snuff.
Okay. And did you discuss other options or other people?
We did talk about a little bit, if you should tell the owner or any other people. We kind of want to look, we said, yeah, maybe to get in contact with the owner, I guess probably depending on where your conversation with that contractor went. If they didn't let you on site or something, that maybe you should go try to tell somebody else. Or we also, I don't know if we really came to a conclusion if you had an ethical obligation to inform like OSHA or something like that too, though.
Okay, thanks. How about we go to group number 3, and do you have any additional information that you'd like to share or additional thoughts you had?
This is Sean with group number 3.
Sean, you're pretty quiet. If you could get closer to the microphone, please, that'd be great.
I'm not sure if that helped at all or not. My microphone tends to stay pretty soft. Basically, we found ourselves not with any, depending on the severity, not any obligation. But the thing is that, yes, it would turn into a talk to somebody at the site. If they tell you to back off and whatnot, you can always take it to a local inspector per se, possibly depending on which branch. I'm not terribly familiar with what inspectors might be there for GCs per se, but might be able to do it from an inspector standpoint, and that might be an easier way to resolve it than throwing OSHA at it.
Okay. So let's see what the board had to say. So that the NSPE Board of Ethics said, okay, so the owner that you're working for and the contract you have with that owner, they aren't germane to your duties as engineers for that owner. Okay. However, you still have an ethical and personal responsibility to uphold the canons of the code. And again, it gets back to holding paramount the health, safety, and welfare of the public. So they're going to say you need to do something. So they ruled that the engineer should take steps to notify the other owner in writing of her observations. And I know there were discussions in the breakout room I went to is, if you talk to the first person, they don't do anything, then what do you do? When I think the observation here is if you do it in writing, you've notified the owner. Ultimately, they're responsible for what happens at their site, would be my guess in thinking of what the NSP Board of Ethics ruled. And if you do it in writing, it is now somebody else's responsibility. Okay. Dan, this is actually working better than I thought it would. Thank you very much for setting the breakout rooms up. So this one's a different one. You're a new graduate engineer. You have, tens of thousands of dollars of loans from being a student. And here's the case. You're a software engineer, but you still have to happen to be an engineer in this case. And you were hired by a software company. It's a small company. It's, doing some bang up stuff and moving forward. And you become aware that the company is using proprietary software without having a license. And in fact, it's being installed as part of your software application that this new software company is developing. Okay, she talks to the CEO. It's a small company. You get to talk to the owner, and the owner is aware of the situation, and you're assured that the problem will be addressed. Well, months pass, there are no licenses that are going on. Nothing's been secured with respect to the proprietary software. You've made repeated efforts and to rectify the situation. It's ignored by upper management. So the question is, what do you do now? Remember, you're deep in debt. You just started your career. You know they have proprietary software that's being included in your software. You've contacted the CEO, upper management, and nothing seems to be happening. So Dan, send us to breakout rooms and let's do, I'm just looking at the clock here. Yeah, let's do about 5 to 6 minutes on this one.
Sounds good. Here we go.
Somebody in our room said they were getting harder. Dan, give me the heads up when we have everyone back.
We are good to go.
Okay. We're going to go to the breakout room we haven't had the chance to hear from yet. Breakout room number 4, please.
Great. Can you hear me all right?
Perfect.
Okay. What we discussed, we would agree this would be the toughest one that you've asked so far. What we discussed is we'd just make sure that we had all of our documentation regarding the subject. We would notify our supervisors and our company that they're doing unethical business and stealing that information. And then we would likely be looking for another job. And once that's in play, if nothing's happened from our company standpoint, we'd reach out to the other company that the software is being stolen from and let them know.
Okay. Thanks, Ben.
Yep.
We're going to ask breakout room to share some additional information that they had. Emmett Conrad, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear which breakout room you said.
That'd be you.
Yeah, we kind of discussed the same sentiments that Group 4 had. We kind of discussed that first step is, talking to the CEO again and kind of letting them know that if things don't change, that we're going to be reaching out to the other company and kind of discuss that, lowering your ethical bar is not worth a job. So probably stepping down from that job, just like Group 4 had stated too.
And I think somebody in Group 1, the room 1 where I was, also said, if the company is like this, the company is a reflection of you too. Yeah. Not only so do you want that to be part of your background too? So I thought that was a good point that they made. So let's look and see what the ethics board said. Okay. So your reputation and your ethical standing are put at risk. It's not your fault. You have a right to act more assertively. So you can do things that you haven't done so far. It's different than if you observed an ethical practice, and it also doesn't involve health, safety, and welfare of the public. So we're at a different standard. So resolve it. Obtain the license, or ask them to obtain an opinion from a competent counsel that the actions do not amount to copyright infringement. And finally, maybe it's time to resign to maintain the reputation, get the resume out. And there are people who want the ethics of somebody who won't put up with illegal, and the copyright laws are pretty extensive with respect to fines. And so, but in this case, more important is to maintain the reputation. So we did the 3 easy ones. Now we're going to get to number 4. And what we're going to do, we're going to come back and discuss it in the same way we've done in the past. So here's the case. You're working for a medical technology company, and it's manufacturing ventilation equipment for newborn infants. It's just gone into the market. So you're an engineer who's responsible for the manufacturing, not the design, and you notice that there's a check valve that could cause overpressurization in an infant's lungs. You bring the issue to the appropriate manager, who is not an engineer, and you've been assured that the matter will be looked into immediately. A month passes and nothing has changed, and you now threaten to report the matter to the federal authorities. So Dan, send us to our breakout rooms. The ventilation, the check valve could cause overpressurization. You brought it to the manager, who's not an engineer. They said immediately they'd do something. A month passed, nothing's happened. So you threaten to report to the federal authorities.
Rooms are open. And we've got all back, Mick.
Fantastic. There were some good conversations on this one. This one's not easy, is it? Let's start with breakout room number 2.
Yep. So I'll take this one. So yeah, our group kind of discussed, it sounded like he'd already told his supervisor that he was gonna tell the authorities. So I think, having given them a warning, letting them have, whatever it was, 4 weeks to try and address it, it wasn't addressed. You kind of give them say, hey, we're going to reach out to the authorities. And if it's not addressed in the next, week or so, or you're not seeing movement on it, then I think it's time that you probably need to report this to the authorities. As you said, you probably want to have all your paperwork backed up and everything as well.
Okay. How about we ask breakout room number 3?
Sorry, I was on mute. We had a very similar discussion we did divert slightly in taking it up the chain of command within your company, potentially before going to the authorities. Of course, the hiccup there is that we've already threatened to go to the government, potentially, but I think what Joe said was good about having maybe a little bit more of an ultimatum with a defined timeline, and certainly tracking all of the information in writing.
How about group number 4? Did you have any other discussions or thoughts?
I was volunteered to speak for my group. I just didn't remember what group it was.
Okay.
So maybe it was 4. Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah, Tim's saying that's us. A lot of what we went over was kind of the same idea. For starters, if this is a potential life and safety issue for infants that depend on this equipment, it shouldn't have sat around for a month. So that was a mistake in the first place. So what we decided was that we should move forward with what should have been done in the first place, which is, a written notification to the powers that be at the company, letting them know that there was an issue, that it needed to be addressed. And as a part of that written statement, outlining a plan of action for assessing and correcting the issue, if it was an issue, with a strong timeline, and with the indication that if there was an issue, it needed to be identified as soon as possible. So any equipment that's been manufactured in the last month can be recalled before it can cause any potential safety issues.
Okay. And there was discussion in our breakout room about, really, you don't want this to get out to the hospitals. So let's look at what the board said. Okay, so you are acting as a faithful agent or trustee of your employer. There's some factors or circumstances that impact your understanding of the conflict. You don't know about the design, the personal involvement of others. You're not personally involved in the decision-making process. You're making an observation. And it was not ethical to threaten to report the matter to federal regulators without full knowledge of the facts. Okay. Nobody's gotten this one right. What do people think about what the ethics board came back with? Because first time I went to the TC 1.7 presentation, I went, what?
Well,
Reactions?
in group 1, we kind of discussed that, thought that maybe the first step should have been talking to higher up, because you don't want to report it to the authorities just because one person, maybe the supervisor that he talked to forgot to bring it up the chain, or he said that, we're going to take care of it, but maybe he forgot, or maybe he just chose not to. So that only speaking to one person maybe isn't the right way to go about that.
And really here it's not ethical to report the matter to federal regulators without full knowledge.
Mm-hmm. so that then and talking to higher ups or other members of the organization, maybe then you can get all the facts and yeah.
That's what our group had kind of discussed too, that you would want to notify other people in your company and get the design team's perspective that they also see a flaw before going outside the company.
But if you are in a scenario where you identify an issue and you've tried following up on it and you just keep getting told, oh yeah, sure, it'll get dealt with. If you're not getting any more information, and to the extent of the knowledge that you're able to acquire, you feel there might be a safety risk, I still feel as though you have the responsibility to do something about it. I mean, within the structure of the company, obviously the first thing that you should do is try to go up. But if that doesn't get you anywhere and you're not given any assurances that the issue's been dealt with or that it's not a life safety concern, I think you absolutely have a responsibility to take it somewhere.
So how do you figure out what to do?
Go through the steps. Yeah. No, you can go through the steps. I mean, if you try to address the issue within the confines of your company and you're not able to get any kind of a resolution, if in your mind a safety risk still exists, you need to take it to the next step outside of your company.
When we do this in person, I get a chance to get around to all the different groups. One of the groups at a discussion said that they would contact their own personal attorney to figure out what they could do from a personal standpoint so that they would not at least be held liable after, and notifying people in writing would probably be a good idea. This one was a surprise to pretty much everybody who has seen it so far. And that's probably why they put it last. So we're going to close today's session. Thank you for attending. Thanks for filling out before you leave, for filling out the evaluation. Again, this is Technical Committee 1.7 who put this together. They put together a number of different programs. So if there are some ethics things that depending on what the state allows you to use, some, for example, in Wisconsin, our ethics training has to be ability to ask questions and answers like this rather than viewing videos. But I think TC 1.7 has put together some videos that can be reviewed online. So thanks for being here. It's an honor to serve you as ASHRAE President-elect this year. If there are things that we can do for you, please let Adam know. Let Rick Hermans, your Director and Regional Chair, and let us know as the Board of Directors how we can serve you. Thanks for the time today. It's one of these days we'll be together in person. In the meantime, keep on doing what you're doing. Do great things for the industry and stay safe and healthy.
Thanks so much, Mick. We really appreciate you taking the time to speak with our chapter today. And as Mick said, please stay on long enough to fill out the DL form that I think Dan will be posting up here momentarily. Yep, there we go. Thanks everybody for your participation. Look forward to hosting our next chapter meeting in just a couple of weeks and hope that you'll join us for that.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Dan, for a job well done.
Thank you, Mick.